So in Vietnam, do producer and buyer care about fair trade? What is your impression about it? Or any impressive story in Vietnam?
Oh, the impressive. Well, if you want to come to Vietnam and see fair trade, I highly recommend going to Hoi An, because there you have Reaching Out. Reaching Out is an organization started by Binh. He's disabled himself, but you would never know that from his persona. He's a very strong man, really quite incredible. He takes a rights-based approach with his work. He's focused on empowering producers, giving disabled people in Hoi An, in that region, an opportunity to learn a craft and a trade, and to really become craftsmen and craftswomen, to the point where a wheelchair or a crutch is not their identity. That's a tool they use to get around. It's not that they're handicapped. They're craftsmen and women, first and foremost. Secondly, that's a tool. That's how they get around. And so they don't see themselves as being handicapped. And they've reintegrated quite well into the community. So I think that would be a very interesting story if you want to look into how fair trade really empowers local communities.
We had a chance to visit Reaching Out. I thought you are the person who recommended for HELVETAS.
Yes.
Yeah, I was amazed with the two-level of the shop, where they display all the product produced by the people sitting inside the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The home-based producers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was I met a couple of them, and when we went to interview them, part of my purpose of going to meet with them and interview them is to find out, are they being treated fairly? And wow, it's quite impressive. They're very empowered. You get a real strong sense of that these people are in control of their life, and they may have a disability which was taboo 20 years ago. They wouldn't be seen as income earners. They'd be seen as a burden to their family. And here they are, making income and gaining respect and recognition for their work.
I see. So how do you compare the fair trade in your country, in America, with some other country, or when you compare America and Vietnam in the situation, in the case of fair trade?
Okay, well, fair trade is interesting because it works everywhere. The primary focus of fair trade is to create opportunities for disadvantaged communities. Every society has disadvantaged communities. They can be disabled, minority groups, survivors of human trafficking. You can have women in some communities are disadvantaged. Domestic violence is an issue. These types of issues people face, and there can be levels of degrees of disadvantaged. So in the U.S. there are disadvantaged communities as well that do work in fair trade. For example, when I was living there, we were working with some Native American groups, and these Native American groups they're very marginalized. They're not mainstream America. You don't see a Navajo represented so quickly, or so it doesn't come to mind when you think of America. So the same case in Vietnam. A lot of the minorities are marginalized and pushed to the side. So for them, a lot of their culture has been lost. And what fair trade does is it provides an opportunity for them to develop their culture, to share their culture, and to really become mainstream, through trade and through this type of work.